Okay, so it's been a very, very eventful week. And basically, I've been getting a lot of messages, emails, people asking me about how I'm navigating the stock market. And I've pretty much already given as many tips and hints as I possibly could. Now, what's funny is that even with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Dow dropped very, very quickly, and then it rebounded even quicker, which is really, really surprising. But basically, what that's telling us is that this Russian invasion of the Ukraine is not significant enough to truly move the needle. However, what we are noticing is commodity prices increasing drastically. Gas prices are up. The price of wheat is most likely going to be up because we blocked Russian wheat. We're making it so that you're going to be expected to pay more for spaghetti, pasta, bread. But Russian wheat isn't the only thing that America has. I mean, we can import wheat from other places, and we also have our own wheat that's USDA. So what are they saying? They're saying the stock market news live updates. Stocks rallied Friday for a second day in a row as traders eyed the latest developments in Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the world's response. The S&P 500 advanced more than 2%, rising further than 1.5% jump on Thursday. The Dow and Nasdaq also built on Thursday's gains to add more than 1% intraday on Friday. Long story short, I don't want to read all of this. You can read this yourself. Bottom line is the market's up. So it's important to look and see what sectors have regained very quickly what they lost. From what it looked like to me, the tech sector is still doing strong. The dividend-paying tech companies that I've talked you towards, such as Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, so forth and so on, AMD, everybody who's involved in semiconductors, they seem to be stable right now. Even the ones that aren't paying dividends, they seem to be relatively stable. I think it's also worth noting that commodities such as gold are up. Gold was up to $1,900 yesterday. I believe right now it's down $34 to $1,892. One of the places where I disagree with Peter Schiff is Peter Schiff, he believes that people should be and are flocking to gold. The reality is these people are not trying to maintain the value of their dollars. They are trying to gamble on any speculative asset that will make them more money. And notice I said gamble, I didn't say invest. When I think about cryptocurrency, especially with the government's involvement in cryptocurrency, we already know it's not a hedge against inflation, and we also know that it is not anonymous. They were able to track down people who stole cryptocurrency. Very simple. A husband and wife couple, specifically they were Russian, by the way. Russians, comrades. So anyway, we know it's not anonymous. We know it's not a hedge against inflation. We know that it has a direct correlation with what the stock market is doing. So therefore, I see no point in it with the exception of people trying to gamble on it in order to make more money. Do I think that cryptocurrency is absolutely terrible? Absolutely not. I do think that it does have, some of them have use cases, scenarios, but right now the vast majority of them are Ponzi schemes. Even Stephen Graham said that himself. The vast majority of them are Ponzi schemes. 45% of all crypto value is stored in Bitcoin, while the whole other 17 plus thousand have no real use case. So what do I focus on? I focus on commodities. I focus on oil. I focus on houses. If you have one house, you're doing great. If you have two houses, you're doing even better because you can always rent that house out for Airbnb. You can always rent it out and to other people make some money. So that in and of itself is a commodity, a house. Not only is it the house, but it's also the land. I was having a conversation with my cousin, and I was thinking about the fact that if you get a charging station in your yard, you can literally rent out your yard to people to use your charging station for an electric vehicle. I have enough space in my yard for 3 cars. Think about it like this. Here in New York City, especially in places where parking is very tight, there are people who are willing to pay you just to park their car in your yard because it's hard for them to get a park in the morning. Imagine being able to rent out a parking space in your yard to a person who's going to use your electric charger, and they're going to pay you for your parking space and the electric charger. One thing I should also mention, I have a coworker who's chosen not to get the COVID vaccine, and she's been living at home for almost an entire year and able to survive because she has Airbnb part of her house, and she's able to make enough money doing just that in order to survive without having to turn to prostitution or other lower end services such as like Uber or rideshare, especially prostitution. You don't want to have to go that way. But anyway, this is what we're looking at. The gold dropped $34. Treasury notes are up 1.7, but I don't really pay attention to those because as far as I'm concerned, there's really nowhere to gain in treasuries. The tech sector rebounded very quickly. I'd like to point out TechSpot was talking about global smartphones. Now, first of all, smartphones are important because they're an intersection of technology. Silicon chips, 5G technology. I told you all a long time ago, don't go after individual 5G companies. Go after cell phone companies and companies that provide cellular service. Go after ISPs, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. I told you this a long, long time ago because there were some people talking about how they wanted to spend money on 5G. I said specifically, no, go after the big companies. They're already diversified. You don't have to do the homework. Apple, as you can see by this graph, Apple was doing extremely well during 2017 to 2021. Apple had 149, 156, 145, 146, 196 in 2021. Now, compare that to Samsung. Samsung in the number 2 position, 76, 74, 73, 64. So they started to shrink because people were probably saying, you know what, I don't really need to upgrade my phone because I want to hold on to money. I'm afraid of what might happen with this COVID situation. But then right after COVID's quarantine started ending in 2021, Samsung regained a small percentage, but Apple regained an even larger percentage. Apple competes with no one. Apple makes iPads, iPhones, M1 chips, silicon. If you're invested in the Apple, you don't have to worry about the silicon. They're going to do all of that work themselves. They're going to make their own chips. They're going to make their own displays. They're going to make their own technology instead of outsourcing parts from other companies. You don't have to do the research. Just go after the big company. It's what I've been saying about gas and oil for the longest. And only now are people starting to listen to what I've been saying for the longest. I've been telling you this for years. Go after the big companies. How's oil prices doing? Oh, gee. Let's see. I was telling you to get into oil when oil was in the negatives. How's oil doing right now? Let's see. Where is it? Let's see. Gas prices. Yes, because see, you don't have to go after individual gas prices. All you have to do is go after the oil companies. They're diversified. BP, Shell, Chevron, Sunoco. They're already diversified. You don't have to go after the smaller companies. So anyway, for all the wind farms and solar panels we built, the world, and especially the United States, still runs on gas and oil, and that's going to be like that for a long time. Russia is one of the world's biggest fossil fuel producers, yielding about 12% of the global economy's oil and 17% of its natural gas. Much of the latter is carried to Europe via pipelines that run through Ukraine, potentially freezing the whole continent's supply. Already I'm hearing on the news that some countries that have extra oil and gas, they're being suggested that they divert some of that towards Europe because with this Russian and Ukraine issue, it may cause Europe to slow down or it may cause huge spikes in gas and oil in Europe. Obviously, the quicker you change over to an electric car, the less likely you're going to be affected by this sudden jump in energy costs. Most wealthy people have already started buying electric cars, obviously. Lately, that's all I've been looking at. Some of these fools are still going out there and spending money on gas-guzzling V8s and all this shit. I'm not. I'm making the move to electric so I can start saving and start reinvesting that money immediately. How vulnerable is the U.S. to an oil shock? Well, I think we're pretty goddamn vulnerable. How much oil does U.S. import from Russia? Not much, but not nothing. We really import, I know this off the top of my head, about 600,000 barrels of oil per day from Russia. The number is actually 596,000. The shale oil boom of 2010 made the U.S. a oil exporter, surpassing the production levels of Russia and Saudi Arabia in 2002. I think there's a mistake. 2021, I think. I think they fucked this up. They put 201. Anyway, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, America imported an average of 266 million barrels of crude oil per month in the 6 months ending last November, the latest month for which data has been published. Just under half of that oil, or 132 million barrels, came from Canada, a U.S. ally and member of the Five Eyes Intelligence Sharing Alliance. So, where are gas prices? Will gas prices continue to rise? Almost certainly gas prices will continue to rise. Though U.S. gas prices may suffer directly, the bigger problem will actually come from the many other countries who are far more dependent on Russian oil. So guys, long story short, I'm not going to read this whole thing. I can provide the link. The bottom line is you need to wean yourself off of oil and gas. Not just because the liberals have made it more difficult for you to get oil and gas at low prices, but because oil and gas are highly fluctuating during these economic fluctuations in the market due to Russia and Ukraine, or possibly in the future due to China versus Taiwan. You really don't know. How high will oil prices go? They're saying that oil prices can spike to $150 per barrel. Do I think that's going to happen? You have no idea. It could happen, it might not, we just don't know. Experts believe consumer gas in the U.S. are likely to reach $4 a gallon. Yeah, well, guess what? Here in fucking New York City, it's already $4 a gallon. In fact, I was looking at signs today, $4.17, $4.50, $4.75. Or $5 in the higher tax states such as California by early spring. My guess is they should have also said New York right here, California and New York. Can anything stop it? Action by national governments to keep prices low could protect consumers from the worst impacts. And with midterm elections coming up in November, President Biden is clearly alarmed by the situation. That's just where we are, guys. That's just where we are. So what are you going to do about it? Well, honestly, this whole idea of investing in dividend stocks, this is not a short-term get-rich-quick scheme like cryptocurrency. No. Dividend stock is supposed to be about you squirreling away money towards your retirement at this point. More important than your retirement under stock dividends is also your stability with your housing. As long as you have housing stability, you should be able to weather most storms. If you have a house, you can always rent out part of it. If you have more than one house, you can always rent out one house and use that to help pay for the second. The issue that we're having is most Americans have waited too long to start families and to basically, begin their lives as adults. Most Americans right now, even if they are above the age of 18, they're not really adults. Most of them are slave wage workers. Most of them are living in their parents' house. They're living in their parents' basement. Most of them are waiting for their parents to die so that they can cash in, as if their parents are some goddamn walking lottery ticket. But that's what we've been reduced to. People are wasting money, have wasted money, and they're still wasting money and thinking of ways to waste more money. And whether it's your Lexus that you're driving around in that's a piece of shit, but you drive it because you want people to think you're cool, or whether it's your used BMW or your used Mercedes that you have to have in order to flex on people on the road so that you make people think that you're cool, which you're not. The simple fact is we're wasting a lot of money. It could also be something as simple as that $300 a month cell phone bill that you're paying for your family plan on your unaffordable iPhones or your unaffordable T-Mobile Galaxy phones. It could be the cable bill that you have that's $200 or $300. You're wasting a lot of money. And that's just the hard reality, even if I have to say it in a way that you can't stomach. The best thing you can be focused on is a future of electric vehicles. You want to get rid of your gas guzzler if you have one. You want to make sure that whatever you have is highly efficient and is able to basically save you money in the long run. Something that's lower maintenance, something that's just more efficient, that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg every single day. And also, your insurance costs are probably pretty high. The housing market is still a mess. This is probably where I'll get ready to end. The housing market is a mess. They're saying pending home sales fall for a third consecutive month. Home sales have fallen, but the problem is that the values on these houses are much, much higher than they really should be. And the reason why is obviously because the Federal Reserve has left interest rates far too low for far too long. They're saying home buying in the U.S. was lower and slower than anticipated in the first month of 2022. Pending home sales, a leading indicator of the health of the housing market, declined for the third straight month. The National Association of Realtors pending home sales tax, which tracks the number of homes that are under contract to be sold, fell 5.7% in January from December and dropped 9.5% from the same month a year ago. What is the bottom line here, guys? Interest rates are still low. Housing prices are still too high. Most Americans either can't buy or don't want to buy right now because they can't afford it and they don't want to end up in a very, very high mortgage that they can't afford later down the road, especially with job instability still being a problem. Total housing inventory was down 2.3% from December and down 16.5% from 1 year ago. What does this mean? It means that all of the best houses in the best neighborhoods have been sold. It means that now if you want a house, you're going to have to get some distressed property in the worst of ghettos, in the worst of areas, around people you absolutely don't want to live around. How do I handle it? Well, I buy guns and I buy ammo. If I have a house in a bad neighborhood, or if I have a house in a neighborhood that I don't fully trust, I don't need all of these alert systems such as Ring doorbells and whatnot. All I need is a pump-action shotgun and an AR-15 and a Desert Eagle. This way, I can deliver justice myself, keeping people off my property, off my lawn, out of my house. So, where are we? The housing market began 2022 with demand outpacing an all-time low. All of these unsold homes, said Realtor Chief Economist Daniel Hale in a statement prior to results. Compared to last year, January's inventory level was down 28.4%. According to Realtor data, the seller participation was lagging, and it's going to continue to lag. Most people don't want to purchase anything right now. Smart people with smart money don't want to buy into a market where they're going to get ripped off because everything has an overcharge. Everything from cars, used cars, new cars, homes, they're getting overcharged and they know it. And they know they'll never be able to break even if they buy it right now. I was telling you back in 2016, 2017, find a property, buy a property, stop fucking around with these goddamn cars. These things are basically mini Ponzi schemes in and of themselves. And if you bought into one of them, now you're probably facing a difficult question. Do I sell this car and not be cool anymore and not be able to go to the car meets? Or do I keep this car and not be able to eat and not be able to feed my family properly because I'm driving around in a fucking gas guzzler that's eating up all the money out of my pocket? Now you're being forced to make these decisions. I tried to tell you, but some of you wanted to go out and buy those Acura MDXs. Some of you wanted to go out and buy those Hellcats. Some of you wanted to go out and buy those Trackhawks. Some of you wanted to go out and buy those BMWs and those AMG Mercedes. Now you're stuck with them while the Russian bear is rolling tanks over cars and crushing them with all of the Russian might of the powerful Soviet Union and Mother Russia. And now you're finding out the hard way, comrades, that you should have listened, but you didn't. So, in closing, all I can say to you is that if you want to navigate this market, you must take all of your rubles and you must spend them wisely or save them wisely. There is no in between. If you're wasting your rubles, my dear comrades, you're going to end up in a situation far worse than you could imagine. That is basically all, comrades. That is all I had to say to you today. I hope you appreciate this update straight from the Kremlin. We are going to crush the Ukraine once and for all and the American capitalist pigs. We are not going to allow them to destroy our economy or to impose sanctions on us that we cannot bear. Mother Russia is going to rise from the ashes of the Soviet Union and Chernobyl, and we are going to take over the world.